A single touch lasting less than 3 seconds can flood a woman's brain with enough oxytocin to make her feel emotionally bonded to you for hours. That is not poetry, that is neuroscience. And yet, most men have absolutely no idea which touches trigger that response and which ones make a woman quietly decide she will never see you again. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly which 7 touches change everything. And number 5, that one is almost unfair. Here is something that most people will never tell you out loud. A mature woman does not fall in love with words. She has heard every compliment. She has read every sweet text. She has sat through every candlelit dinner where a man tried too hard to say the right thing. Words stopped impressing her a long time ago. What actually moves her, what actually cracks open that guarded heart she has spent years protecting, is something far more primal: touch. But not just any touch, not the clumsy, the psychology behind subtle touch. Grabby, I saw this in a movie kind of touch. I am talking about specific, intentional, psychologically powerful touches that communicate things words literally cannot say. Safety, confidence, tenderness, desire, all without opening your mouth. Doctor touch, the power of gentle presence. Dia Kellner, a psychologist at UC Berkeley, conducted a fascinating study where strangers were asked to communicate emotions through brief touches on the forearm. No words, no facial expressions, just touch. The result? People could accurately identify emotions like gratitude, love, and sympathy through touch alone with up to 7 and 88% accuracy. 78%. Your mouth wishes it could be that effective. So, if you have ever wondered why some men seem to effortlessly make women feel connected to them, while others try everything and still get the friend speech, this is your answer. It is not about what they say, it is about how they touch. And a mature woman, a woman who has been through enough to know exactly what she wants, responds to this on an entirely different level than someone in her 20s. Now, before I walk you through all 7 of these touches, I need to warn you about something. 2 of the touches on this list seem so simple that you will be tempted to dismiss them. Do not. Those are the ones that mature women touch. Number 1, the greeting signal have specifically told me, make them feel things they cannot explain. And the last touch on this list, number 7, has a psychological effect so strong that relationship therapists actually prescribe it to couples on the edge of separation. I will explain why when we get there. Let us start with the first touch that quietly rewires how she feels about you. The first touch is what I call the slow lower back guide. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is just basic gentleman behavior, hear me out because the science behind this one is staggering. When you place your hand gently on the small of a woman's back, maybe while walking her through a doorway, guiding her through a crowd, or standing beside her at an event, you are activating one of the most nerve-dense areas of the human body. The lower back contains a massive cluster of nerve endings that are directly connected to touch 2, eye contact that builds trust, the brain's emotional processing centers. A slow, confident, warm hand placed there sends a signal that bypasses logic entirely. But here is the part most men's speed and pressure matter enormously. A quick pat on the back feels like something her uncle would do at touch number 2, building comfort naturally, Thanksgiving. A heavy push feels controlling, but a slow, steady, warm placement of your full palm with just enough pressure to say, I am here and I am aware of you, triggers what psychologists call a protective bonding response. Her nervous system reads it as safety. Her brain releases oxytocin, and emotionally, she starts associating your presence with calm. A mature woman especially responds to this because she has spent years being the strong one. She has handled everything herself. She has been her own protector. When a man places his hand on her lower back with quiet confidence, it is not about control. It is about communication. It says, you do not have to carry everything alone right now. And for a woman who has been carrying the weight of her world on her own shoulders, that single gesture can feel more romantic than 100 roses. I once read a comment from a woman in her late 40s who said, and I am paraphrasing, "He put his hand on my back while we were walking into a restaurant, and I felt something I had not felt in 15 years. I felt chosen." That is the power of this touch when it is done correctly. The second touch is the two-handed handhold, and this one is criminally underrated. Most people hold touch number 3, creating emotional tension hands. That is not special. Teenagers hold hands at the mall. What I am talking about is different. This is when you take her hand and then bring your other hand over to cradle it. Both of your hands holding one of hers. Maybe during a conversation, maybe during a quiet moment, maybe after she has just touched 3. Respectful physical awareness told you something vulnerable. This touch works because of something called bilateral stimulation. When both of your hands are engaged in holding hers, it creates a symmetrical sensory input that her brain interprets as full attention and emotional presence. Therapists actually use bilateral touch techniques in EMDR therapy to help people process emotional trauma. So when you hold her hand with both of yours, you are quite literally giving her brain a signal that says, "You are safe here. I am fully present." For a mature woman, this is devastating in the best possible way. She has probably spent years with men who were physically present but emotionally somewhere else. Their body was at the dinner table, but their mind was on their phone, their work, their fantasy football league. When you hold her hand with both of yours and look at her while she is speaking, you are giving her something she may have stopped believing existed: full, undivided, embodied attention. And touch number 4, reading her response honestly. The contrast alone is what makes this so powerful. She has had years of half-hearted affection when she feels both of your hands wrapped around hers with warmth and intention. Her brain practically screams, "This one is different." And once a mature woman's brain decides you're different, good luck to every other man who tries to compete with that. Now, touch number 3 is the one that catches most women completely off guard. It is the forehead touch. And no, I do not mean a forehead kiss, although we will talk about something similar later. I mean the act of gently pressing your forehead against hers. Foreheads touching, eyes closed. Naturally, breathing syncs up. The world goes quiet. This might sound overly intimate for something so simple, but the psychological weight of this gesture is enormous. Dr. Sue Johnson, the creator of emotionally focused therapy Touch 4, Emotional Safety Through Words, and one of the most cited relationship researchers alive, has written extensively about what she calls bonding moments. These are micro interactions that activate the attachment system in adults, the same way a mother's touch activates it in infants. The forehead touch is one of touch number 5, confidence without force. The most potent bonding moments two adults can share. Why? Because it requires a vulnerability from both people. You cannot press your forehead against someone's from across the room. You have to be close. You have to slow down. You have to let your guard down. And for a mature woman who has built emotional walls high enough to block out most of the nonsense the world has thrown at her, this touch is a quiet knock on a door she forgot she had. It does not demand anything. It does not escalate. It just says, "I am right here with you and nowhere else matters." A man who can do this without rushing it, without turning it into something else, without breaking the silence with a joke because the intimacy feels uncomfortable, that man has just communicated more emotional intelligence than most people demonstrate in an entire relationship. Touch number 4 is the one I almost did not include because of how effective it is. I feel like I am handing out cheat codes at this point. This is the back of the neck touch. The nape of the neck is one of the most sensitive and vulnerable areas on the human body. It is packed with nerve endings, and because it is an area people cannot see or easily protect, touching it creates an immediate spike in both arousal and trust simultaneously. The final touch that creates deep connection. That combination is extraordinarily rare. Most touches create one or the other. This one does both at the same time. When a man gently places his fingers or his palm on the back of a woman's neck, maybe while sitting beside her, maybe while leaning in to tell her something, her brain goes through a rapid-fire evaluation. Am I safe? Do I trust this person? Does this feel good? And if the answer to all three is yes, the emotional response is almost instantaneous. Her breathing. Touch 5, subtle attention and care changes. Her pupils dilate. Neurochemically, dopamine and oxytocin release in tandem, which is the exact cocktail responsible for romantic attachment. Here is where maturity plays a massive role. A younger woman might not even register the significance of this touch, but a mature woman, she has enough experience to recognize what that touch communicates. It communicates confidence without aggression, desire without desperation, familiarity without assumption. It is one of the most sophisticated touches a man can offer. And the women who recognize it are the ones who have been waiting for exactly that level of awareness. A word of caution though, timing is everything with this one. You cannot walk up to a woman you just met and touch the back of her neck. That is not romantic, that is a police report. This touch works because it comes after trust has been established. It is a progression, not a shortcut, and a mature woman knows the difference immediately. Touch number 5 is the one I told you about at the beginning, the one that is almost unfair. It is the thumbstroke. And before you wonder what that even means, let me explain. Because this is where the psychology of touch becomes genuinely fascinating. The thumbstroke happens when you are already holding her hand or when your hand is resting on her arm, her shoulder, or her knee. And without drawing attention to it, your thumb slowly moves back and forth against her skin. Small, slow, rhythmic strokes. You do not announce it. You do. Not look down at your hand, you just do it while continuing whatever conversation you are in. This works because of a specific class of nerve fibers called catactile areins. These nerves respond specifically to slow, gentle stroking touch, and they are directly wired to the parts of the brain that process emotional connection and social bonding. Researchers at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden found that this type of slow stroking activates the insular cortex, which is the brain region responsible for touch 6, confident yet calm energy, feelings of intimacy and emotional closeness. In other words, when your thumb moves slowly across her skin, you are literally activating the part of her brain that makes her feel close to you. And because it is so subtle, she may not even consciously register what you're doing, but her brain absolutely registers it. Her body absolutely responds to it. And emotionally, she starts feeling drawn to you in a way she might not even be able to articulate. This is why I said it is almost unfair, because a mature woman who feels this, a woman who has spent years in relationships where affection was either performative or absent, will feel that small absent-minded thumb stroke and think, he does not even realize he is doing it. This is just how he is. And that thought, that belief that your tenderness is effortless rather than calculated is what makes her fall. Not the grand gestures, not the expensive, not the gifts, the unconscious, gentle movement of your thumb while you are talking about something completely ordinary. That is what love actually feels like to a woman who has seen everything else. Touch number 6 is what I call the silent pull. This is the moment when you are sitting beside her or standing next to her, and without a word, you reach over and gently pull her closer to you. Maybe your arm goes around her shoulder and draws her in. Maybe your hand finds her waist and closes the gap between you. No announcement, no come here, just movement. This touch works on a principle that attachment researchers call proximity seeking. In attachment theory, one of the primary signs of secure bonding is the instinctive desire to reduce physical distance between two people. When you pull her closer without being asked, you are mirroring what a securely attached partner does naturally. You're saying through action, the space between us was too much. I wanted you closer. For a mature woman, this is profoundly meaningful. Because here's what nobody tells you about women over 35 or 40. Many of them have spent years feeling like they had to earn closeness. They had to be attractive enough, agreeable enough, accommodating enough to deserve affection. They have been in relationships where physical closeness only happened when the other person wanted something. So when a man pulls her close simply because he wants her near him, not because he is initiating something, not because he is performing for an audience, but just because the distance felt wrong, it rewrites a story she has been telling herself for years. It tells her she is wanted not for what she offers, not for what she does, just for her presence, just for existing next to him. And if you do not think that is powerful enough to make a woman fall in love, you have never watched a confident, accomplished, self-sufficient woman melt into the side of a man who just wordlessly pulled her closer during a movie. And now, touch number 7, the one I saved for last because it carries more psychological weight than everything else on this list combined. This is the long hold hug. Not a quick squeeze, not the back patting buddy hug, not the one-armed side hug that says, I acknowledge your physical existence, but would rather not commit to this. I am talking about a full, both arms wrapped, chest-to-chest hug that lasts a minimum of 20 seconds. And yes, that number is specific for a reason. Research published in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology found that hugs lasting 20 seconds or longer trigger a significant release of oxytocin while simultaneously reducing cortisol, the stress hormone. This means that a long hug does not just make a woman feel loved, it literally reduces her stress at a biological level. Her heart rate slows, her blood pressure drops, her nervous system shifts from sympathetic activation, which is fight or flight mode, into parasympathetic rest, which is the state where bonding and emotional openness become possible. This is why relationship therapists prescribe extended hugging to couples in crisis. Dr. John Gottman, whose research on relationships spans over 4 decades, has recommended prolonged physical holding as one of the most effective tools for rebuilding emotional trust between partners. It is not a metaphor. It is not a feel-good suggestion. It is a clinically supported intervention. Now, here's why this matters so much for a mature woman specifically. By the time a woman reaches her 40s, 50s, or beyond, she has likely experienced loss, heartbreak, betrayal, loneliness she never talked about. She has learned to hold herself together so well that most people around her do not even realize. She is hurting. She has become her own support system because she had to be. When you wrap your arms around that woman and you hold on, not for a polite 2 seconds, but for a full, unhurried, genuine embrace that says, I am not letting go until you are ready. Something shifts inside her that she cannot control. Every wall she has built, every defense she has perfected, every instinct that tells her to stay guarded, all of it softens. Not because she is weak, but because for the first time in a very long time, she does not have to be strong. And that honestly is the most powerful thing a touch can do. Not excite her, not impress her, but relieve her. Give her permission to stop holding everything together for just one moment. If you can be the man who gives her that, she will not just fall in love with you. She will choose you deliberately, repeatedly, with every part of herself that she has been protecting from the wrong people for years. So now you have them. 7 touches, each one backed by psychology, neuroscience, and the lived experience of women who have been through enough to know exactly what real connection feels like. And the beautiful thing about every single touch on this list is that none of them require money, status, or perfect timing. They require awareness, intention, and the willingness to slow down long enough to actually be present with the person in front of you. But knowing these touches is only half of the equation, because here is a truth that most men overlook entirely. A mature woman will not wait passively for final message, what truly creates lasting attraction you, to figure this out. She will be sending you signals of her own, subtle, consistent, undeniable signals that tell you exactly how she feels if you know what to look for. And most men have no idea what those signals are. They miss them completely and then wonder why she lost interest. That is exactly why you need to watch this next video right now. It is called, If a Woman Wants Intimacy With, You'll Always Do These 6 Things.